Hi folks, how you doing? Coming back at you today with another video, and of course by the title, like, is it racist? Is it sexist? Who knows, right? So I'm making this video just because I started working with this young little high schooler for a little bit. He went off to college, and I just started asking him these questions. I don't know if you've watched a previous video I've just made, but it's one of those things where they say never talk about sex, politics, and religion. In my opinion, those are the things we need to talk about the most in life, because you need to be able to first of all know how to debate somebody or have a peaceful conversation, at least a respectful conversation with someone that has different points of view than you, right? Like, that's what you need to do. That's just what we have to do in life in general, right? So and I've had this conversation with my cousin who's a little bit younger than me a long time ago. And it's just funny how, like, racism or sexism usually only goes one way, right? It never goes both ways, especially when it comes to, I guess, the point of like self hatred. Nobody, even though we talk about we should always love ourselves and this and that, unfortunately, when it comes to these things, it's okay to, in a way, hate yourself, right? So where am I going with this? It's what I asked this kid before. It's that same thing. Like, if I, as a man, want to vote for a female, right, and say, oh, I'm voting for her because she's a female, or I want to see it, the first female president, like, that is sexism, right? Even though I'm a man, I'm literally hating on the other candidate because he is male. So it doesn't matter that I am a male, it is still sexism, right? Because I'm only basing my vote on sex, right? Or same thing if you're someone who's like, oh, I'm only voting for uh, who to be like Rubio, or only hiring this person, or whatever the case may be, because they're Hispanic, because of this, right? But unfortunately, we only get into the sexism, racism if it's a male or if it's like a white person, right? But of course, you should never vote or hire or anything like that based on that. I mean, you can if you want, whatever. It's your own preference to do what you would like. But so is that racism? Is that sexism? Just things to think about. I think the unfortunate thing nowadays, like I've always said, is you need to be talking and at least having conversations with people that have different views than you. Um, I do that a lot. At work, I'll be listening to something and I'll just get so upset. Or with my wife, I'll listen to something like, this is freaking dumb. I don't understand. And people are like, well, why do you listen to it? Like, it's not your point of view. And it's like, well, I myself need to understand the other side, because you need to understand where they're coming from, even if you don't agree with it. And at certain times, it's like, oh, I do agree with it, but that's not the majority. That's not this. That's not that. But I think you need to understand. Like, I've always heard it said that the worst thing nowadays is we're not being taught how to think. We're being taught what to think, and not seeing that that is still sexism, racism. Or here's another one. I've had this conversation with my wife. Like, you see people that are very egotistical, right? And in my view, like, what's very egotistical? Someone where it's like, it's all about me. I'm the best. I'm this, right? Like, that's what you see. But I was listening to this podcast a while ago about like the virtues or vices coming from a Christian perspective. And it pretty much says, like, when you think of someone being egotistical, I'm trying to think of the virtue or the vice or what it was that he brought up. Someone that's self. I can't think of it, but you guys know what I'm saying, right? There's self-absorbed. But it's like there's two ways to go about this, right? There's extremes of both sides. Kind of like in politics, where they say there's like the anarchist and then there's or the dictator, and then there's like the white supremacists, right? You're gonna go on both ways, where there's like those type of things, the two extremes, but we want to find the middle, which where most of the majority of us are in the middle, unfortunately. Just sometimes when we get stuck in our own environment and listen to our own things, we kind of go farther and farther towards those extremes. But for the most part, if you were to talk to anybody long enough and have a peaceful conversation, you'll find out you have more in common than you don't have in common. And that's for people in general, right? But it's like the egotistical person, and it's like there's one who's like, I need the car. If I have a car, I'm better than you. If I have this, I'm better than you. I'm better than you because of this. I'm better than you because of that. And then there's the other person where it's like, woe is me, woe is me. Life is horrible. I can never get ahead. I can, the world hates me. And those are the same things. You're just on the opposite spectrum. So you need to find that middle ground, right? To where you're neither, you're just like right there at peace with yourself, versus it's woe's me or I'm better than you. Because when it comes down to it, it's me, 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 I'm better than you, me, right? It's the same thing. It's just deflected in a different aspect. And that's what it comes down to when you're researching, doing your knowledge, gaining your knowledge and wisdom and all these things. You want to be right down the middle, because in reality, we are all there. So it's that same concept of what is down the middle. And it is one of those things where it's like, uh, think of it's humility. That's the virtue that it comes down to, is humility, right? And humility, and I've had this conversation with my wife. Humility, and I think it was Mother Teresa who said this, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less, right? Not thinking less of yourself, not I'm a horrible person, I'm this, not I'm better than you, this and that. It's thinking of yourself less. It's that same concept of, putting on someone else's shoes, understanding where they're coming from, that empathy, but also still being logical about it. And it's hard when you do that. It's hard to not think of yourself. Um, so something to think about. It's that same concept of like, in reality, we all have our biases, right? We're all biased in some way, versus ideology, race, kids. Like, you hate kids, you like kids, you hate adults, you like adults, old people suck, blah, 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 whatever. You're going to have your biases in that sense, but it's still trying to figure out uh, that happy medium. Because in reality, we all want the same thing. You know what I mean? And it's hard to truly understand that we all want the same thing. We all want happiness. We all want a little bit of luxury. We all want a little bit of security, and we all want to be able to change the world and guide others around us. So it's more of we as a people need to stop being told what to think and start thinking for ourselves. And that's hard because uh, it takes a lot of time. Like, I just made a video on like uh, my thoughts on like what Nick Cannon said a while back, Professor Griff, Dr. Umar Johnson, quick one, but it takes forever to gain those opinions. And I think what's uh, a solid and valid opinion. I guess what's best is, if you don't follow the hip hop, I don't listen to Logic too much. He's a rapper, and he brought something up where he talked about a new CD comes out. This one CD came out and I hated it with the passion. He's like, I thought it was horrible. He's like, right, but I listened to it once. He's like, so you have to listen to things quite a bit. He's all, that's the same if anybody says, I like this album after listening to it once. It's like, oh, well, you're full of crap, right? Because you need more than one listen. So whether you like something or you dislike something, it's BS until you need a month or two to actually get true insight to the problems of the world, to what you like, to what you dislike, to understanding the world in general. So never, that's one of those things, like first impressions, like the whole saying, first impressions is everything. We need to be able to put that aside, because sometimes people are nervous, sometimes people don't know what to say, they don't know how to act, maybe they had a bad day, and we've got to be able to not associate a first impression or anything like that with the person in general. Because I know I used to be, in my opinion, very socially awkward, and you still have your moments when you are. But now I'm totally off topic. But like sexist races, right? It doesn't matter if you're voting on someone strictly for their race, even if they're your opposite race. Like I said, that comes back to the self hatred. It's okay to hate yourself, and as long as it supports their cause or this cause, and that's not what it's about. We need to be more focused on, what is the idea? Is it truly good for us as a people? Excuse me. And is it going to help somebody in the long run? And it's the same thing with any law, anything you do in your life. You're never going to truly know if it had an effect on you until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So I'm going to leave it there. That was long. I apologize, but something to think about, like racism, sexism. How is this working? A majority of the time, it goes both ways. Even if you think you're doing something good, in reality, um, it could turn out to be something wrong, and we just need to start thinking more before we make these decisions. Like I've said it before in videos years ago when I made them, like after this one video, stop watching anymore, really try to process it, think for another 10, 15 minutes, and try to get a better understanding of what was just said, what was just heard, what you just heard, and if it's true, if it even applies to you. Because sometimes we go down this road where none of these things that we're consuming in our lives even are adding value. This video included. Maybe it's adding no value to your life. I don't know. But back to that kid, David, real quick. So we started talking about it, and my wife was like, "Don't be talking to him about these things. Like his parents are probably gonna like try and get you fired or something." So I ended up asking him, like, "Oh, have you talked to your mom or dad about any of this stuff?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I talked to my mom." I'm like, "Oh great. Like, what did she think?" And he goes, "She just thought it was uh, really helpful that you were like making me think about all these weird type of things that I had never heard before, and she thought it was good that you just tell me to think a lot and ask me all these weird questions." So a good thing in that aspect. And I always told him too, like, anything I'm telling you right now, and I was upfront with him when I first had these conversations. I was like, "Look, anything I tell you right now, any advice you feel like I'm giving you, you don't take it." I was like, "If you're close with your parents, you need to go home and talk to them about it, and you need to let them help you decide what is right." I was like, "Because I'm not trying to make you think a certain way or believe what I believe, but I want you to be able to, know these things that are going on in the world, because you're very young and you don't know these." And a lot of these things I was talking to him about were now, like mathematics is racist and this and that is sexist and whatever. And the Nick Cannon thing, I told him about that. He was like, "I have never heard any of this stuff in my whole life." And it's like, "Oh, you're only a 17-year-old kid. Like, of course you haven't, but there's a lot of strangeness going on out there." But anyways, video's too long right now. Thank you for tuning in. Uh, Hopefully I'll be coming back at you with some other stuff, and we'll go from there.